Hello friends, welcome to ELS English Literature Studies with Kaur Harpreet. Today's topic is about S.T. Coleridge's Kubla Khan. Now you will have a question in your mind कि मैम लास्ट वीडियो भी इसी टॉपिक पर थी तो फिर ये repetition क्यों? Friends, that was just a brief about Kubla Khan. It is not possible to discuss Kubla Khan in single shot, right? So today I'm here to discuss about its theme. I will discuss about its background, about setting of the poem, about its rhyme scheme, and at the end I will discuss its summary also. So let's get started with today's topic, Kubla Khan by S.T. Coleridge. Kubla Khan. Kubla Khan is narrated in the first person, right? It is narrated in the first person from the perspective of a speaker who is fascinated by Kubla Khan. This work is narrated by S.T. Coleridge in both past and future tense. When we talk about references, Kubla Khan references Kublai Khan, the grandson of famed Mongolian Empire ruler Genghis Khan and founder of the Yuan dynasty in China, right? The poem's full title, Kubla Khan or A Vision in a Dream, a fragment. It refers to the fact that S.T. Coleridge wrote the poem after waking from a dream he had under the influence of opium. After that, I will discuss symbols. I will discuss the dome as a symbol and Abyssinian maid, which is used as a symbol. Then next is about its themes. I have themes of imagination and creativity. Then next theme I am going to discuss is dreams and reality. And third is the impact of nature, right? And at the last I have summary. So let us start. Kubla Khan. Kubla Khan or A Vision in a Dream or a Fragment. A poem completed in 1797 and published in 1816. According to Coleridge's preface to Kubla Khan, it was composed one night after he experienced an opium-influenced dream. Now what is opium? It is a reddish brown heavy scented addictive drug prepared from the juice of the opium poppy, right? ये ओपियम एक तरह से क्या करता है कि आदमी को बेहोश कर देता है कुछ टाइम लिए और कुछ मेडिसिन्स में भी इसको यूज़ किया जाता है, राइट? एंड ही एक्सपीरियंस्ड एन ओपियम इन्फ्लुएंस ड्रीम. वो इस ओपियम के इन्फ्लुएंस में सो रहा था जब उसे ये ड्रीम आया. एंड this is his famous and mysterious poem written probably in the autumn of 1797 under the influence of opium, right? He fell into a state of daydream or a state of being pleasantly lost in one's thoughts. ये उसकी एक वर्क ऐसा है जो उसने डे ड्रीमिंग के टाइम किया था एंड इन अ स्टेट ऑफ बीइंग प्लेजेंटली लॉस्ट, और वो खुश था इस डे ड्रीमिंग के टाइम में, राइट? In 1797, he spent much of his time with his fellow poet William Wordsworth and his sister Dorothy. And on his return from his journey, he became sick and rested at Ash Farm. There he had a dream which inspired the poem, right? And according to the extended preface narrative, Coleridge was reading this work and he fell asleep right after reading about Kublai Khan, right? He says that he continued for about 3 hours in a profound sleep. He was in a profound sleep. बहुत ही गहरी नींद में था 3 घंटे जब उसको ये सारी lines उसके दिमाग में आई, right? And during which time he had the most vivid confidence that he could not have composed less than from 200 or 300 lines. और उसको ये था कि इन 3 घंटे की गहरी नींद थी, he was confident कि उसमें मैंने 200-300 लाइन्स लिखी हैं जिसमें से वो कुछ ही रिकैप्चुलेट कर पाया. एंड वो क्यों ऐसा हुआ? बिकॉज वाइल रीडिंग ए ट्रेवल अकाउंट बट हिज ड्रीम ऑफ द एग्जॉटिक Orient was interrupted by a person on business from Porlock, right? Although he tried to write down his recollections, उसने बहुत कोशिश की वो 200-300 लाइन्स को रिकलेक्ट करने की only, and it was possible for him only to recollect 54 line fragment remained, right? That is why it is also named as अ फ्रेगमेंट, राइट. कुबला खान क्यों है उसकी रेफरेंस मैंने दे दी है. अ विजन इन अ ड्रीम बिकॉज ये डे ड्रीमिंग का था. अ विजन थी जो उसने ड्रीम करते हुए देखी थी. एंड अ फ्रेगमेंट, वाई इट इज कॉल्ड एज फ्रेगमेंट बिकॉज ये 54 लाइन्स का एक फ्रेगमेंट है. ही वॉज नॉट एबल टू रिकलेक्ट ऑल द लाइन्स, राइट. The poem could not be completed according to its original 200 or 300 line plan, as the interruption caused him to forget the lines. He left it unpublished because he was not able to recollect all the lines, so he left it unpublished and kept it for private readings for his friends until 1816 at Lord Byron's request, right. And critics have explored a wide range of possible interpretations regarding this poem, or jitni bhi interpretations we will discuss it. Firstly, the critics, they denounced the poem and questioned its origin, right. But now time has changed, and we can say new critics or modern critics, they viewed Kubla Khan as one of the we can say one of Coleridge's 3 great poems, along with the Rime of the Ancient Mariner and Christabel, right. पहले तो इसकी बहुत सारा इसको क्रिटिसाइज किया गया, जैसे जैसे कहते हैं कि आगे टाइम बढ़ता गया, जैसे जैसे मॉडर्न क्रिटिक्स आए उन्होंने इसको दोबारा रीड किया, तो उन्होंने ये दे केम आउट विद द रिजल्ट दैट इट इज़ वन ऑफ हिज बेस्ट पोएम्स. जो इसकी 3 ग्रेट पोएम्स थी, द राइम ऑफ द एंशिएंट मैरिनर, क्रिस्टबल एंड कुबला खान, राइट. एंड द पोएम इज कंसिडर्ड वन ऑफ द मोस्ट फेमस एग्जाम्पल्स ऑफ romanticism in English poetry according to these critics. Positive evolution of the poem in the 19th and 20th century treated it as a purely aesthetic object, and it was appreciated for its sensory experience, right. And the first of the negative reviews was written by William Hazlitt, literary critic and romantic writer, who criticized the fragmentary nature of the work. उसने इसकी फ्रेगमेंट्री नेचर के कारण इसको क्रिटिसाइज किया. ही सेड दैट द पोएम कम्स टू नो कंक्लूजन. इट वाज विलियम हैजलिट हु वाज द फर्स्ट वन टू गिव अ नेगेटिव रिव्यू, राइट. एंड ही सेड दैट it comes to no conclusion, and that from an excess of capacity does little or nothing with his material. But according to some critics, the stanza of the poem forming a conclusion was composed at a later date, and it was possibly disconnected from the original dream. Kubla Khan was published with Christabel and the Pains of Sleep in 1816, and Coleridge included a fragment as a subtitle. He added a fragment as a subtitle because he wanted to defend his work, this main work Kubla Khan. He wanted to defend it against criticism of the poem's incomplete nature. That is why उसने वहाँ पे a fragment लिखा है, right. And the original published version of this work was separated into 2 stanzas, with the first ending at line number 30. And the poem was printed 4 times in Coleridge's life, with the final printing in his poetical works of 1834. In the final work, Coleridge added the expanded subtitle, or a vision in a dream, a fragment, right. Next is about its style. The style. The poem is totally different in style and in form from other poems composed by S.T. Coleridge, right. And when the poet woke up from his dream, as I already told, he was only able to compose the first 30 lines before he was interrupted. And the second stanza is not necessarily part of the original dream, and it refers to the dream in the past tense. The rhythm is again totally different. When we talk about rhythm, it is like its themes and images, it's different. Its rhyme scheme found in the first 7 lines is repeated in the first 7 lines of the second stanza, right. I'm repeating my words, that its rhyme scheme, which we found in the first 7 lines, is repeated in the first 7 lines of the second stanza, and the first lines of the poem follow iambic tetrameter with the initial stanza relying on heavy stresses, and the lines of the second stanza incorporate lighter stresses to increase the speed of the meter to separate them from the rhythm of the previous line. Read it carefully, it will be very clear to you. Give it a time, read it twice, thrice, it will be clear, right? And there is a, we can say there is a transition in narration from a third person narration about Kubla Khan into the poet discussing his role as a poet. And without the preface, the two stanzas form two different poems that have some relationship to each other, but at the same time lack unity, right? The poem is vastly different in style from other poems, and the first stanza of the poem describes Kubla Khan's pleasure dome built alongside a sacred river fed by a powerful fountain. And the second stanza is the narrator's response to the power and effects of an Abyssinian maid's song, right? Now, this Abyssinian is a civilization that has its roots in the 8th century BC. And Abyssinian maid, she is a figure of imaginary power within the poem. एक imaginary power है उस poem के जो कि उसको inspire करती है, which who can inspire within the narrator his own ability to craft poetry, right? एक उससे की imaginary power है जो उसको able करती है उस craft poetry को लिखने के लिए. And when she sings, she is able to inspire and mesmerize the poet by describing a false paradise. And this song, Abyssinian maid song, इस maid का जो song है, this song gave intense joy to the poet but left him unable to act on her inspiration unless he could hear her once again. Together they form a comparison of creative power. They is used for the poet and Abyssinian maid, that together they form a comparison of creative power that does not work with nature and creative power that is harmonious with nature, right? The third and the final stanza, it shifts to a first person perspective of the speaker, detailing his sighting of a woman playing a dulcimer. Dulcimer is a musical instrument, and if he could revive her song, he could fill the pleasure dome with music, right? He concludes by describing a hypothetical audience reaction to the song in the language of religious ecstasy. And in terms of genre, the poem is a dream poem and related to works which describing visions common to the romantic poets, right? Kubla Khan, we can say it is also related to the genre of fragmentary poetry with internal images, reinforcing the idea of fragmentation that is found within the form of the poem. And due to its fragmentary nature, Kubla Khan, this combined work Kubla Khan turns into a work that lacks structure, that lacks order, and at the end it leaves the reader confused, right? कि ये एक फ्रेगमेंटेड पीस है और इसकी एक फ्रेगमेंटेड नेचर के कारण ये जो एक वर्क है, इट लैक्स स्ट्रक्चर, ऑर्डर, लैक ऑफ यूनिटी एंड लीव्स द रीडर कंफ्यूज्ड एट द एंड. नेक्स्ट आर थीम्स. फर्स्ट वन इज imagination and creativity. As a romantic poet, S.T. Coleridge placed a strong emphasis on the power of imagination. The poem reveals that the speaker has been imagining what the place of Xanadu would look like, and this makes him recall an experience he had, and he wonders if his imagination could ever do it justice in describing it. Time doesn't function in a linear way in the whole poem, as the speaker jumps back and forth in the time. As I told in the starting that both tenses are used here, right? So the speaker jumps back and forth in time, and he also jumps back and forth in imagination and reality also. And the image of the dome which is presented here is, it seems to be shaped by imagination rather than reality, right? Here we can say the poet also seems fascinated by how imagination influences people to create things, and also he makes the reader to understand the difficulty, right, to create these things, imagination and creativity. And Kubla Khan is able to create a fantastical palace, and Abyssinian maid she's able to conjure up the most beautiful song, and the speaker struggles to recreate his vision in words, and he looks to both we can say Kubla Khan and this Abyssinian maid to answer his questions, right? Second is dreams and reality. What is the theme? Second theme is dreams and reality. Kubla Khan, it drifts back and forth from the historical facts, and here poet claimed the lines that come to his mind or come to in his dream after he fell asleep, right? And the romanticist placed we can say placed great emphasis on dreams as a key to truth, and Coleridge he shifts from we can say dream to reality, right? According to Coleridge, he was interrupted before he could finish writing all the lines, and when he attempted to recreate or recollect, they had faded from his subconsciousness, right? The speaker he also laments his laments means कि पछतावा होना, पछताता है. He laments his inability to recollect or to precise that music which was placed by Abyssinian maid. He saw in a vision, जो उसने vision में देखा था. He laments that he is not able to create it in vision, right? He for he feels that if only he were able to do so, it could spark something in this work, and this we can say this seems that it is impossible to capture something so precise in poetry which he feels like a dream. Next is the impact of nature. The impact of nature on the imagination and the creation of art was important to Coleridge. For the Romantics, we can say poetry was always a vehicle, or we can say a way to describe beauty of the nature, right? Describe its pleasing greenery. And although Kubla Khan covers a lot of historical ground, it also its main focus is also on nature. The impact of nature is one of its themes, and Coleridge starts out by describing the natural environment surrounding, right? He turns the reader's focus to that deep romantic chasm from which water flows, and he even links the river, which I'm going to discuss in summary. And Kubla Khan hears prophesying war. उसको एक intuition होती है कि एक war start होने वाली है. These I'm going to discuss. For Coleridge, nature wasn't all sunny skies and clouds. It is not कि बहुत ही हर चीज़ अच्छी है, हर चीज़ प्यारी है. Although nature appears tranquil with Zendu, under the surface it is soothing and violent, and Coleridge goes to great lengths to describe the chasm, but he also describes about its dangerous, unpredictable. He also describes it in a terrifying way, right? And the effect of this is he wants to show us that nature can have a profound impact on both the real world and the imaginative world. Next is narrative voice. Kubla Khan is written in both third and first person voice, and the reader we can say he might assume the speaker is Coleridge himself, who claimed to have seen the lines of the poem in a dream, right? The poet or Coleridge had fallen asleep, and his description of his dream, associating it with mythology and other places, we can say reflect the strange association that occur in his dream. In fact, he also laments in the third stanza that he is not able to conjure up a memory or conjure up to his dream, a vision in a dream in writing. He claimed he fell asleep because of opium, and upon awakening he was not able to recollect all the lines because of interruption, and when he returned to finish it, he had forgotten most of it, right? And the speaker laments that he is unable to precise the images and sounds that he wants to recall. He wants to precise the we can say song sung by Abyssinian maid, right? And the way the narrative voice shifts to first person in the third and final stanza, it mimics the way narrative perspective can shift within a dream, and therefore we can say leaves it ambiguous as to who the speaker of the poem actually is, right? Next is its symbols. Two symbols are here, the dome and the Abyssinian maid. When we talk about first symbol, the dome, the speaker seems fascinated by the symbol of Kubla Khan's pleasure dome, and he repeats this imagery at different points. बार बार इसको यूज़ किया गया. when you will go throughout the poem, आप देखोगे कि इसको बार बार रिपीट किया गया, बार बार इसको यूज़ किया गया. and this dome, we can say, it can be seen as symbolizing the act of creating a poem itself. After seeing this beautiful dome, the speaker strives to create something as memorable and lasting and striking as the dome in the air. राइट कि इस डोम को देख के वो भी एक ऐसा डोम बनाना चाहता था पोइट्री का, इन वर्ड्स का, कि वो भी अपने आप में एक मार्वलस चीज़ हो इस डोम की तरह. एंड इफ द एबिसिनियन मेड सर्व एज द म्यूज ऑफ द पोएम, दिस डोम इन एयर, वी कैन से इट एक्ट्स एज द एम ऑफ पोएटिक क्रिएटिविटी इटसेल्फ. राइट. नेक्स्ट इज द एबिसिनियन maid as a symbol. The Abyssinian maid and her song, it seems to symbolize that which is impossible to capture and render in this work of art. If only the speaker could recreate and commit to writing, he would be able to produce something as fantastical or we can say inspiring as a sunny dome filled with caves of ice. Right. And in producing such a thing, he would also be regarded as godlike, right, depicted in the poem as having flashing eyes and floating hair. Right here, he would, we can say, he would be able to install a Hollywood red in his audience. There is also recognition that most poets and artists are unable to depict the magic they witness accurately. Right. And the poem here, we can say, it can be seen as poetic inspiration itself, and the maid may serve as the muse of the poem. Right. Now let us talk about its summary. The poem is divided into 3 irregular stanzas which move loosely between different times and different places. Right. Stanza number 1, when we talk about summary of first stanza, the first stanza begins with the fanciful description of the origin of Kublai Khan's capital Zandu, where a ruler named Kubla Khan rules from a stately dome built under his command. Right. And this place is described as being near the river Elf, which passes through caves before reaching a dark sea. 10 miles of land was surrounded with fortified walls, towers, and ancient forests, encompassing lush gardens and forests. Stanza 2. The second stanza describes a mysterious cannon. A geyser erupted from this cannon, throwing rubble into the air and forming the source of the sacred river Elf. And the river wandered through the woods, then reached the caves and dark sea described in the first stanza. Then Kubla Khan presents for the eruption. Kubla Khan heard a prophecy of war in the sounds coming from the river. He hears ancestral voices professing that war is coming, and the pleasure dome casts a shadow on the waves, where the sound of both the fountain and the caves can be heard. And this seems like a strange miracle, and the speaker paints an image of a sunny pleasure dome with caves of ice. Right. Next is third stanza. The third stanza, it shifts to the first person perspective of the poem speaker. The speaker once had a vision in which he saw a damsel with a dulcimer, a woman from Abyssinia who played her instrument, and she sang about a place called Mount Abora. Right. And the speaker is filled with delight to recall her singing and playing. He imagines that if he had the power to recall it accurately, he could build that dome in air with its caves of ice. He feels that anyone who heard this song would be the dome and cry, where he writes, "Beware at the sight of a man with flashing eyes and floating hair." Here the speaker, He instructs those listening to weave a circle around him 3 times and close their eyes with holy dread, because this man has eaten honeydew and he has drunk the milk of paradise. And the stanza ends with instructions and a warning to carry out a ritual because he has consumed the food of paradise. So friends, this is all about today's topic and I hope you will like it. Please share and subscribe my channel, and thanks a lot for watching. And if you know my channel, please hit the bell button so that you can get notifications from upcoming videos. Thanks a lot for watching.